Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. American Comics. Transformed into a super race, Spider-Gwen was stunned. Chapter 21. Throwing the robbers to the door of a nearby police station, Gwen fired a cobweb that stalked among the tall buildings. With a distance of several blocks, it took her less than 10 minutes to arrive at the high-level apartment where she lived. She climbed into the house along the window that had been reserved long ago, but she didn't make the slightest sound. He took off his headgear. Dazzling blonde hair clings to his forehead, and his sky-blue pupils are full of anger and confusion. However, the most important thing now is to take a good bath. In any case, that villain named Saiyan was right. At this moment Gwen could already feel a smell from his battle suit. After carefully cleaning the battle suit and spraying it with deodorant perfume, Gwen finally didn't smell anything strange around him. Putting away the water, lying in the bath, the girl calmed down her mood. The life of a superhero for a few days made her gradually swell up a little bit, and after a fight with that Saiyan today, the swollen Gwen quickly wilted like a puffer fish that had been pricked by a needle. Lost too badly. Obviously, the opponent's speed and strength are far inferior to her own. Gwen admits it, but when she really fights, she is led by the nose, and she can't take advantage of it at all. It turns out that in this world, not only is she special, but she is far behind. After all, she was only a 17-year-old girl, and the blow tonight was a bit severe. After soaking for half an hour, Gwen was still in a bad mood. The habit developed over the years made Gwen subconsciously call Sun Wuming. Brooklyn, a quiet community, is full of single-family villas, covering a lot of land. This is another property in Sun Wuming. Even with John Wick on good terms. But as long as he doesn't want others to know his real identity, Sun Wuming will not tell him his address. Therefore, what John Wick said about arriving at his home actually refers to a house purchased by Sun Wuming as a peach. Some mission entrustments will also be sent here, but whether you accept them depends on Sun Wuming's mood. Sun Wuming, who was scared away by Gwen's rogue style of play, flew here directly, and saw John Wick sitting at the door in disgrace. His clothes were also covered in dust. There is such a dog by my side. You came. Seeing Sun Wuming descending from the sky, John Wick froze for a moment but regained his composure. I have seen teleportation before, and flight is no big deal. Your house was bombed. Who did it? Sun Wuming opened the door and walked in with a person and a dog. Sandino Antonio. He came here with a blood alliance and wanted me to help him kill someone, but I refused. John shrugged. Sun Wuming motioned him to take what he wanted to drink, took out orange juice from the refrigerator, and drank it down. Blood alliance. This time it's your problem, John. Sun Wuming raised his eyebrows. For the underground world controlled by the Gaucho Society, blood alliance is a solemn and sacred rule. Once the blood alliance is signed and the blood handprint is pressed, then you have to do something for the other party unconditionally. Even if you are asked to die, you must not violate it. John Wick was going too far. He clearly signed a blood alliance, but he was unwilling to abide by it. He deserved his family to be bombed. I know. John sighed, sinking deeply into the soft sofa, with a look of exhaustion on his face, but I'm tired of this life. I'm retired, and I really don't want to be involved in it anymore in their vortex. He asked me to kill Jaina, who was the ruler of the Kimura family and a member of the High Table. John. Sun Wuming looked at him and said seriously, since we have stepped into the quagmire, it will not be so easy to get out. Unless you are as strong as me. John rolled his eyes. Are you educating me or praising yourself? However, he had to admit that if he had the power of Sun Wuming, he would not have to sign a blood alliance with Santino at all, and he could resolve the matter by himself. Sun Wuming ignored his little expression and continued. If I were you, I would complete the blood alliance first, and then kill Santino. John nodded. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I came to you just to keep this little guy here for a few days, and borrow 2 gold coins by the way. As he spoke, he pulled the dog leash. It's a small matter, but I have a little suggestion here. Do you want to listen to it? A light flashed in Sun Wuming's eyes. John was startled. You say. You go to complete the blood alliance. Santino will leave it to me, and I will arrange a decent exit for him. John frowned, and said, your target is the Kimura family. The Kimura family may be more familiar to the public with another name. Mafia. It's funny to say that the whole world knows that the mafia originated in New York, but few people know that the orthodoxy of the mafia is actually in New York. In the 18th century, Europe set off a wave of immigration to the Americas, and the mafia came to this uncivilized land. After hundreds of years of development, their influence here has been extremely large. Flour, color Q, and even munitions all have their active presence. He is also a member of the 12 seats of the Gaucho Society. And Santino Antonio is the younger brother of the ruler of the Camorra family. His sister, Jaina, is the target of John's mission this time. Santino's purpose is self-evident, to kill his sister to usurp the throne, and to control such a huge interest group by himself. That's right, I don't want to be a laborer for the rest of my life, but the old man Winston has never given me information about the holder of the high table seat. I didn't expect the idiot Santino to help me. Sun Wuming nodded with a smile. John was silent for a moment, then held out his hand. Make a deal. Seeing that John agreed, Sun Wuming also smiled. Sun Wuming's enthusiasm for the high table is not due to his desire for power. In fact, he was just doing it to save trouble. In the United States, in New York, many times the underground world is more useful than the white ones. As for the high table, the dark power mastered in New York is so strong that it is no exaggeration to say that Jin is now a younger brother in the eyes of the high table. Don't those congressmen and city officials know about this killer organization that is so arrogant that it has opened its bases in the city center? They know it, but no one is willing to take care of it, because darkness is also a part of this city. If you live in the secular world, you can't just rely on your fists to speak. The consequence of doing that can only be a heresy in people's eyes. Others' opinions Sun Wuming doesn't matter, but you can't become a loner with Gwen. The reason why people are human is because they live in a society full of various interpersonal relationships. Therefore, if you want to live a comfortable and high-quality life in the future, you need to have a background and influence. Otherwise, he's just a punk who can fight. Sun Wuming didn't want much, just to bring the high table's influence in New York under his command, to provide funds for his salty fish life and to deal with some small things. He didn't bother to care about other places. And the reason why John Wick agreed was simple. Killing a member of the high table will definitely cause trouble, at least that Santino must want to use his head to appease the rest of the family. I'll take the dog away first, and put the gold coins in the kitchen drawer. When you solve Jaina, give me a call. After the matter was finished, Sun Wuming was also ready to withdraw. Okay, I'm going to Italy tomorrow, I wish your plan goes well. John nodded and got up to see him off. He took the leash from John's hand, and flew into the distance directly under the terrified eyes of the dog. In the silent night, the shrill dog barking came from the sky, making many people who were enjoying the nightlife think they were hallucinating. Back home, Sun Wuming was just about to take a shower and go to bed when he heard his cell phone ringing in the bedroom. After seeing Gwen's name, his heart tightened suddenly. Why did Gwen call him so late? Did he see his identity? Hello, Gwen, are you still up so late? Before he had time to think about it, Sun Wuming forced himself to speak calmly after he got on the phone. Wuming, are you asleep? Gwen's weak voice came from the microphone. Not yet. I'm just going to take a shower, and you know my schedule, it's impossible to sleep at this point, what's the matter? Sun Wuming became a little more normal, and it was clear from his tone that he was worrying too much just now. Gwen, it's nothing, I just feel a little irritable suddenly, and I want to talk to you. After the call was connected, Gwen suddenly realized that even if she called Wuming, she couldn't tell the matter. Especially after knowing that Wuming is not interested in what Spider-Woman did, she is ready to keep this secret deep in her heart. But now that it's connected, Gwen can't say nothing, so Gwen can only say, "Can I ask you a question? What's wrong with you today? You speak so politely." Sun Wuming pretended to be strange. Maybe it's because it's already 12 o'clock. As you said, it's the time for Wang Yiyan. Gwen was startled, and realized that she was a little too strange, and quickly returned to her usual tone. You said, if something changes in me, will you still be the same as before? Then are you still Gwen? Sun Wuming asked back. Definitely, I will always be Gwen Stacy. Gwen replied without thinking. It's over, Sun Wuming said in a relaxed tone. it's normal for people to change, but as long as you are Gwen and your feelings for me have not changed, then nothing can affect you and me. Really?" After hearing Sun Wuming's attitude, a big smile bloomed on Gwen's face under the blanket. "Definitely is true, lie to you what to do. But there is one thing I need to refute you." "What?" Gwen asked curiously. "You can't always be Gwen Stacy because when you get married your last name will change. Like, Gwen Sun." Beep beep. Hearing the sound of the phone hanging up, Sun Wuming smiled, dropped the phone and went to take a shower. He understood why Gwen became like this. In fact, it was all caused by him. There is still time for him to gradually change Gwen's behavior. The superhero Gwen who is too holy is not what Sun Wuming wants to see. Superhero is a kind of thankless existence. Caring about the opinions of the public, caring about the public opinion of the people, and being held back by those disgusting politicians all the time. Most importantly, there will be endless troubles. Bad people always live more comfortably than good people, and people with a lower bottom line tend to live a happier life than those with a higher bottom line. What Sun Wuming has to do now is to slowly lower Gwen's moral bottom line. Ahem, it sounds evil, but it's really for her own good. And the high-level apartment a few streets away. After hanging up the phone, Gwen blushed and her heart beat faster. What Gwen Sun? Is Wuming confessing his love to her? No, this is too informal, there must be a grand ceremony. That's not right, Wuming hates these fancy superficial skills, but at least I have to say it to my face before I agree. What's going on the phone? But, Gwen Sun, sounds good too. What should the next child be called? Is it better to have a boy or a girl? With that simple sentence, the girl has fallen into reverie, and her thoughts are drifting to the warm picture of both sons and daughters decades later. Sun Wuming's consolation is the best medicine for Gwen. Let her let go of the burden in her heart. A person's inner strength not only comes from his own original strength, but also the support of his family and relatives and friends is an important part of it. At least, Sun Wuming's statement is much more important to Gwen than the support of her parents. With a relieved mentality, Gwen fell asleep beautifully. The day passed quickly. Because it was the weekend, Gwen came to Sun Wuming's home in the morning to spend the morning with him. After lunch, I left under the pretext of going to Osborne for an industrial internship. But feeling Gwen's jumping up and down, Sun Wuming naturally knew what she was going to do. As for himself, he took John's dog out for a walk. Came to the Continental Hotel. Karen, I want to see Winston. At the front desk, Sun Wuming, who has changed his appearance, cut to the chase. Karen was taken aback for a moment, but he immediately contacted his boss and got a reply soon. Sir, Mr. Winston is in the office, you may go over now. Okay, Sun Wuming nodded, led the dog and left. There is only one huge amount of office on the top floor of the hotel. Winston looked at Sun Wuming in front of him and asked softly. Then Mr. Dao bye-bye, is there anything I can do for you? Definitely, Winston, you know about John. Winston nodded slightly. Legendary killer John Wick's house was bombed, and he, a local snake, naturally wanted to figure out what happened. Remember what you promised me last time. Sun Wuming watched the dog pee on the stall worth hundreds of thousands of USD, and the corner of his mouth twitched. After taking over the task of Brother Vladimir, Winston had promised him some information about the high table seat holders once he had completed the task. Now relying on John, he is no longer needed. He came this time to force Winston to make a statement. Then, Winston, it's up to you to make a choice. Do you continue to stand on Santino's side, or take the Continental Hotel in New York into your hands? Winston was silent. After working at the Continental Hotel in New York for so many years, he definitely wanted to take full control of the hotel. But the Kimura family's seat corresponds to the North American region. So on the surface he is in charge of the hotel, but in fact, he is controlled by others everywhere. Especially after that lunatic Santino came to power, the two had some grievances, and his life will definitely be more difficult. Winston looked directly into Sun Wuming's eyes. Can I trust you? You have no choice, Winston, unless you want to be kicked out and retire. Sun Wuming did not back down. After a long time, Winston sighed. Okay, you're right, what do I need to do? I don't need anything. When the time comes to get Santino's fingerprints, just leave as soon as possible. Winston was taken aback. In the middle of the night, at the moment's Italian has already arrived in the wee hours of the morning. With a hint of regret, John killed the leader of the mafia in Jaina, who had a dewy relationship with him. As expected, after he completed his mission, he was met by someone sent by Santino to silence him. After a hard fight, he finally returned to the safe area of the Roman Continental Hotel. After a brief treatment of the wound, John called Sun Wuming. "It's over. Okay, I can start here." Sun Wuming rubbed the dog's head, and raised his glass to Winston, who was drinking coffee. "Then it's your turn." "I see." Winston got up, straightened his suit, and clapped his hands. Two strong men came in and stood behind him. Before going out, Winston still couldn't help asking, "What exactly do you want to do?" "The Kimura family is not comparable to the Vladimir brothers. You'll know when the time comes. Hurry up and don't waste my time." "Remember to hurry up. It's not my fault for being accidentally injured." Sun Wuming yawned. It was already very late. He had to hurry up and go back to sleep. There is still class tomorrow, and if he gets up late, Gwen will blame him again. Seeing his gesture, Winston had no choice but to shake his head and leave the Continental Hotel. Anyway, he didn't do anything out of line. Even if he failed, he couldn't be held accountable. The old fox is very good at counting. Along the Hudson River, the estate of the Kimura family is also located here. At the moment, Santino was cleaning the hands of his sister's line. Corpses could be seen everywhere in the manor, and blood pooled on the ground to form a stream. Winston's expression remained unchanged. He stepped over one corpse after another, and found the vigorous Santino. He took out a notebook and flipped through a few pages, which contained the Blood Alliance records signed between him and John Wick. "Sir, the Blood Alliance has been completed. Please press your fingerprint to terminate the contract." Winston's businesslike attitude made Santino very unhappy. According to the rule, at the moment he was the speaker of the Kimura family, so he naturally became the controller of the high table seat. Winston is just a wage earner, so why not please him? Pressing his handprint with a cold face, Santino said, "I want to issue a warrant for John Wick, 7 million. "Definitely yes, please do as you please." Winston kept Sun Wuming's instructions in mind, and after seeing the fingerprints, he turned around and left without any hesitation. Hiss, 7 million. Is John so valuable? On a hill not far away, Sun Wuming heard the conversation between the two, and also gasped. "What should I do if my heart is moved?" Sun Wuming shook his head. "Forget it, 7 million, just a small amount of money." Through the night, he could already see Winston and his party walking out of the manor. So, Sun Wuming tilted his neck, folded his hands on his waist, gathered them into a calyx shape, and his arm muscles were raised high. In the next second, dazzling astigmatism appeared in the dark night. Ha! The blue qigong wave with tail flames rushed to the sky like a meteor, drew a strange arc and then fell. The target was the manor of the Kimura family. Boom! The sky-piercing explosion sounded like thunder, and the dazzling light made this area as bright as day. Sun Wuming looked at his masterpiece and nodded in satisfaction. "Well, this wave is really big." After one shot, Sun Wuming felt refreshed. As a Saiyan with the surname of Sun, what could be better than a Kamepai Qigong? If there is, it can only be 2 rounds. Sun Wuming finally exercised his muscles and was in a good mood. This is the first time that Kamepai Qigong has appeared in this world. It is really overkill to kill a mafia family. But there is no way, who made Sun Wuming feel a little suffocated. During this period of time, either the big bosses he couldn't beat, or the little ones who were too lazy to fight, so they could only shoot mosquitoes with cannons. Without looking back at the explosion, Sun Wuming turned and walked away. With the chi possessed by those people in the manor, none of them could survive. What, you ask, will it hurt innocent people? Come on, it's all about the mafia, there are no innocent people. Even if there is, isn't it doing a good deed by sending them to see God in advance? Sun Wuming has no psychological burden. Oh, God. Winston, who hadn't left too far, stood blankly in front of the car, looking at the manor that had been turned into ruins. His legs softened, and he almost knelt down. Dao Bai used this method to solve the Kimura family. Is he a god? Looking at the hillside, this terrifying energy wave is emitted from there, but at the moment, there is no one on the hillside. Winston was sure it was definitely Sun Wuming's work. For a moment, his worldview was almost overturned. "Boss, what should we do now?" a bodyguard asked, his voice trembling. "Call." Forcibly regaining his composure, Winston ordered, "Go back immediately and contact the High Table. Washington, Homeland Strategic Defense Offensive and Logistics Agency Headquarters. 3 Curved Wing Building. The at the moment building is already in chaos. Just now, New York has detected energy fluctuations at an ultra-high energy level, which are fleeting. And the location of the outbreak was a well-known rich area by the Hudson River. Have you checked it out?" Standing on the podium, Nick Fury looked serious, looking at the various data on the screen. Although he couldn't understand it, this posture at least made the people below dare not be lazy. Beside him, the deputy Maria Hill reported with the report just obtained. The place where the energy erupted was the Mafia Kimura family. Our people have already rushed there, but according to satellite observations, there is no longer any life in it. In addition, the possibility of long-range bombing by missile weapons has been ruled out, and the radar has not detected any signs of missile launches. Nick Fury remained silent. He didn't care who died, he just wanted to know what kind of weapon could burst out such a large amount of energy in an instant. Could it be that Stark has developed some black technology? Can you buy some over here? Nick Fury was thinking about how to deceive himself more from the Security Council next time, and his subordinates had already used nearby surveillance and satellites to restore the scene that happened at that time. Winston, director of the Continental Hotel, New York. Seeing the people walking out of the manor in the video, Hill immediately revealed the information. In the next second, a blue light bloomed from the nearby hill, and the Qigong bullet with its tail fell on the Kimura family's manor. Nick Fury shrank his pupils and shouted, "Enlarge the view of the mountain. Quick." The technicians immediately followed suit, but it was a pity that Sun Wuming's face and body were completely covered by the flames, and he couldn't see clearly at all, and he could barely distinguish his movements. This attack was sent by a person. A power user. Hill was taken aback. There have always been records about superpowers in this world, either mutant or the name superpower. From Captain America to Luke Cage, who is active in Hell's Kitchen, and Spider-Woman, they can all be classified as superpowers. But like this person on the screen, who launched an attack more terrifying than a missile with his bare hands, he never appeared. Hill, adjust the information of this intelligence to level 9, and let Phil Coulson do his best to find this person. Nick Fury said in a deep voice. His eyes were extremely deep. This beam of energy reminded him of that woman more than 10 years ago. Although the two are incomparable in terms of destructive power, they are dangerous enough for the current Earth. Hill nodded. Understood, I'm going to find Phil Coulson agent now. As soon as Winston left, the mysterious figure behind him shot and destroyed the Kimura family, saying that they had no contact with anyone. Nick Fury adjusted the secrecy level of this incident to level 9, and Pierce over there got the news. After watching it, Pierce is far more cautious than Nick Fury. Rumlow, fully cooperate with Fury's work to find this person, but even if you find him, you must be polite and don't provoke him. Try not to provoke him. If Fury orders something stupid, get out immediately. Yes, boss. Rumlow will not ask why, but will faithfully carry out Pierce's orders. The more Pierce looked at the information, the more frightened he became. He can play Nick Fury for such a long time, and let the other party work hard to strengthen the snake shield for him. He is definitely not as stupid as he showed in the last Captain America, the Winter Soldier. On the contrary, Pierce's IQ is absolutely on the line. In his opinion, the most terrifying thing about Sun Wuming is not the energy cannon that destroyed the Kimura Manor. It's the last ability to disappear out of thin air. Imagine that your enemies are elusive, appear suddenly, bombard your lair, and then disappear suddenly. He has a sick mind to provoke such an enemy. He is Hydra, not a fool. Okay, sir, I will definitely convey your will to the High Table. Winston changed from his calm and gentle demeanor in the past. Even if the other side couldn't see him, he still answered the phone standing up, nodding and bowing from time to time. Back at the Continental Hotel, he called Sun Wuming and asked for his opinion. All the top members of the Kimura family were dead, and Winston thought that Sun Wuming would take the vacated seat for himself. But to his surprise, Sun Wuming actually wanted to push him into that position, and he took control behind the scenes. When a puppet, or be a puppet of this great god. He was so willing. After carefully understanding Sun Wuming's request, Winston waited respectfully for the other person to hang up the phone, then straightened his back and walked into the secret door with his head held high. There, all the seat holders of the high table were waiting for him to hold a video conference. In the dimly lit room, more than a dozen holographic projections were silent. Organizations that can hold seats at the high table are the best gangsters in the world. The combination of 12 families and a few special elders form the world's largest killer organization. And just now, with one of the 12 seats, the senior management of the oldest mafia family, the Kimura, was completely wiped out. Naturally, there was a shock. That's why this group of Dark World bosses approached Winston immediately regardless of the time difference. Boom. The door was pushed open, and Winston walked in with his head held high. Winston, we need an explanation of what happened there. A middle-aged man with a white cloth on his head spoke first, and the others all looked at Winston. They are all bigwigs who have held high positions for a long time. In the past, Winston would not have dared to look at these people one by one. But now, it's all rubbish. Elder, wait a moment, there is a video that I think you can watch. As he spoke, Winston played the video recorded by the driving recorder on the car. After reading it, these elders became even more silent. Compared with the video obtained by S.H.I.E.L.D., the video taken by the driving recorder is more blurred, but the whole process can be clearly seen. You mean, that person is Dao Baibai? No, you should call him Saiyan Lord. Saiyan. The elder and other members of the high table were silent. Looking at the smiling Winston, no one spoke for a while. What do you say? Do you want revenge? Don't be kidding. No matter how powerful the people here are, they are still in the category of ordinary people. The more younger brothers, the more resources in hand. But in the face of such an extraordinary person, no matter how many people there are, they are all cannon fodder. Many high table elders were even rejoicing that it was not him who offended this Saiyan His Excellency, but that idiot Santino. There is no way to spend so much time. As the elder with the highest status, he finally spoke. Since the Kimura family can no longer afford the high table seat, then this position should be taken by Mr. Saiyan. Winston was still smiling. Sorry, that gentleman is busy, and he has no interest in this position. Seeing Winston's confident smile, the elder understood everything. On Monday, Sun Wuming, who was dragged to school by Gwen, slumped on the table weakly. After all, he didn't go to bed early last night. Winston got his wish and became a member of the high table. In order to show his sincerity, other families in the North American killer industry expressed that they would not interfere. In this way, his sphere of influence is even larger than that of the original mafia. In order to thank Sun Wuming for his support, the first thing Winston did after taking office was to clean up the property of the Kimura family and put it all under the name of Sun Wuming. He knows what money can be touched and what money cannot be touched. With Sun Wuming behind him, a mere round table seat is definitely not the end. However, Sun Wuming didn't bother to pay attention to these things. The main reason for his insomnia was that after using Kamepai Qigong for the first time, his understanding of Qi has improved. I was practicing last night. It was not until dawn that he barely slept for a while, and then was woken up by Gwen again. Opening the webpage with his mobile phone, Sun Wuming browsed today's news. The vision by the Hudson River last night was seen by many people, and the official explanation is also very official. A gas explosion caused by a gas leak. At one point, Sun Wuming suspected that he had traveled to Fuyuki City. Skip this one, nothing to see. Next, is this year's Peace Prize going to be awarded? Sun Wuming regained his spirit immediately. Take a closer look, it didn't run away. That big dog is finally going to be shot in the Middle East. Without the slightest hesitation, Sun Wuming directly cleared all Stark Industrial stocks in hand. More than 10 million stocks were all sold out. In normal times, even high-quality assets such as Stark Industries would fluctuate. But recently, the news that Stark is about to win an award has spread, and his invention of the Jericho long-range missile has also been favored by the military. Therefore, as soon as Sun Wuming's stock appeared on the market, it was sold out, and the valuation was raised a bit. But Sun Wuming doesn't care at all. He is now a capitalist. Every time the killer of the Continental Hotel takes an order, he will get a commission. The killers in North America are all making money for him, so naturally they look down on such small profits. What makes you so happy? Seeing Sun Wuming smile, Gwen asked curiously. The stock has made money. Let's go, I will treat you to a big meal tonight. Holding Gwen's shoulders, Sun Wuming pulled her and walked out of the school. Osborne Industries. Norman Osborne's assistant, Fellman, stood in front of Dr. Connors with a haughty expression. Drive Connors, Mr. Norman's patience has been exhausted. You have consumed a lot of funds of the group, but you can't bring any returns. Please give me some more time. The gene repair medicine has been preliminarily completed, and now only the final test is needed. Then do live experiments. Fairman interrupted Connors' next words. There are so many homeless people, drug addicts, and even retired veterans on the streets of New York. Fairman smiled contemptuously. They should be proud to be able to participate in such a great project. You can't do this. Dr. Connors was trembling with excitement. In vivo experiments are prohibited, and the original drug is not stable enough. We experimented on mice, and they became very manic. With Peter's help, he can completely complete the gene repair potion immediately. Why can't he be given some more time? It's a pity that Fairman couldn't stand listening anymore and issued an ultimatum. Drive Connors, all of these are the assets of Osborne Industries and belong to Mr. Norman. Now, we just want to get them back. This is a notice, not a request. Curtis Connors, as the assistant to the president, I announce that you have been fired. After finishing speaking, Furman chuckled lightly, turned around and left. The door was closed with a bang, leaving only Dr. Connors clutching his head in pain. After a long time, he walked to the test bench and injected a tube of green liquid into his body tremblingly. Then I'll go first, Wuming. After dinner, Gwen didn't ask Wuming to take her home, but said goodbye directly at the door of the hotel. With her current skills, if robbers really appeared, it would be considered bad luck for them. Mr. George came back unexpectedly early today. Seeing that her daughter didn't come home until almost 8 o'clock, she snorted coldly. Going to eat with that brat again? Dad, Gwen said dissatisfiedly. Wuming made a lot of money today, it's reasonable for the two of us to celebrate. How much money does a high school student make? Mr. George was a little hurt. The baby girl went so far as to argue with another man. A few million is not a small amount, Gwen said with some pride. What? George was taken aback. How did that kid make money? Isn't he breaking the law? His annual salary is less than $100,000. Sun Wuming, a high school student, can actually earn millions. Thinking of this, George's face suddenly became serious. After all, no matter which country you are in, the most profitable business is written into the code. It can be said that the more earned, the harsher the sentence. Definitely not. Wuming bought a lot of shares in Stark Industries and sold them all today. Gwen said with a smile. Just kidding, if it was really against the law, she wouldn't tell her father. George's face softened a lot. Stocks are indeed one of the few opportunities for ordinary people to get rich. That's about the same. I didn't expect that kid to have this ability. I'm going to do my homework first. After finishing dinner as quickly as possible, Gwen got into the bedroom and closed the door. Then, he took out his battle suit from his school bag and modified it. The recent growth rate is a bit fast, and the originally close-fitting battle suit feels a little constricted when worn on the body, and the chest feels tight. And George in the living room saw his daughter finished eating, and didn't even want to stay in the living room for a second. I thought it was the reason why I suspected Sun Wuming's crime just now, which made her angry. Mr. George also felt that he was a bit too much, thinking that others committed crimes for no reason, which was originally a kind of arrogance. Gwen, honey, I think I should apologize to you and Wuming for the mistake I made just now. Just as George was thinking about his lines, he was interrupted by a hasty bell. It's me, George. Boss, there has been a major accident on the Brooklyn Bridge. George's face sank. What's going on? On the other end of the phone, the police officer quickly said, a lizard. A human-shaped lizard is wreaking havoc. Understood, I'll come right over. After hanging up the phone, George briefly explained the situation to Helen, changed into his police uniform and left under his wife's worried eyes. In the house, with his extraordinary hearing, Gwen also heard the whole story clearly. Without thinking too much, Gwen took off all the clothes on her body and took out 3 band-aids, 2 small ones on top and 1 big. Quickly put on the spider battlesuit, she opened the window and got out gently, like a spider, without making any sound. With absorbent on the wall of the 20-story building with both hands, Gwen let out a soft breath. Spider-Woman, move. Brooklyn Bridge. At the moment, this important transportation hub connecting Brooklyn and Manhattan is in a mess. The bridge was completely blocked, provoking people's irritable nerves. At this moment, a lizard monster jumped out of nowhere and wrecked everywhere. Gunshots, wailing, screaming, and roaring filled the entire bridge. The nearby police arrived quickly, and they were also petrified when they saw the lizard man. But luckily they haven't forgotten their duty. Using cars as cover, a large number of policemen raised their pistols and fired wildly, and even many people joined the shooting team. Needless to say, as expected of America, the per capita wood is abundant. The bullet hit the lizard man's body, causing him to scream like a beast, and he could still see little green blood spattering out. But what is frightening is that these wounds are healing at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his skin is becoming harder and harder. Later, the bullets fired by the pistol hit him, and they could no longer cause much damage. What kind of monster is this? Some policemen couldn't help shouting that what they usually faced were farm tools and the like, and they never imagined that such inhuman existence would appear in this world. Shut up, shoot, George, who came behind, shouted, and ordered to his deputy, apply for National Guard air power support. Roar, the lizard man roared angrily, and with a casual mention, he lifted a large off-road vehicle and smashed it in the direction of the police. Get out of the way. Without George's reminder, the policemen ran to the back, escaped a certain distance and continued to shoot. Now their task is to hold this monster and absolutely not let him enter the urban area. Once he was allowed to rush into the residential area, the casualties would be immeasurable. Facing the hail of bullets, the lizard man leapt tens of meters high, and arrived in front of the police phalanx. With a random sweep of the tail, several policemen vomited blood and flew backwards. Mr. George stood slightly back and escaped by luck. In the next few attacks, he also relied on his agility to dodge. But the retreat has become less and less. Roar. The lizard man raised a car again and threw it at George. Even if the police officers shot wildly, they couldn't stop his movements. Whoosh. At this time, the white cobweb wrapped around the car, and as soon as the lizard man loosened his hand, he saw the car being pulled up, and then slammed into him fiercely. The huge amounts of impact directly sent him flying tens of meters. Looks like you need Spider-Woman's help, Mr. Chief. With the help of the built-in voice changer in the battle suit, Gwen was not worried about being discovered by Mr. George, and teased in a relaxed tone. The body felt refreshed for a while. Snort. Smelly dad. Isn't it said that the appearance of Spider-Woman is a disaster for this city? A disaster saved your life today. While proud, Gwen felt lingering fear at the same time. If her speed was a step slower, it would be self-evident what happened just now. Thinking of this, Gwen looked at the lizard man who hadn't recovered yet, and his eyes became sharp. And at the top of the bridge, no one noticed that a man in a black practice suit was sitting there watching a play with his legs dangling and a smile on his face. Sun Wuming came earlier than Mr. George and Gwen. He just never made a move. Amidst the chi surrounded by ordinary people, a chi hundreds of times larger than ordinary people suddenly appeared, naturally shining like a big light bulb in the dark. When he came to the bridge, Sun Wuming saw such an ugly thing rushing forward. She didn't bother to care. But if Gwen hadn't arrived in time just now, he would definitely have rescued Mr. George, and he would be his future father-in-law anyway. But looking at it now, there is no need for him to make a move. Just let the lizard man be Gwen's opponent. This should be Gwen's first serious battle. On the bridge, Mr. George's face at the moment is particularly exciting. 3 points of rejoicing, 3 points of astonishment, 3 points of shame, and 1 point of stiffness. The old pie chart. Not long ago, he criticized the existence of Spider-Woman in the newspapers for adding chaos to the police and wasting a lot of police force to wipe her ass. But who would have thought that within half a month, he would be rescued by Spider-Woman? If there were cracks in the ground at the moment, Mr. George would probably choose to crawl in to cool down for a while. Sun Wuming looked at the future father-in-law whose face was like a pallet, and his hands suddenly felt itchy. If so, he jumped down to take off Gwen's hood now. After seeing the true face of Spider-Woman clearly, will Mr. George shoot himself excitedly? No, if you really want to do this, your daughter-in-law will definitely be gone. Sun Wuming shook his head, quickly put away his devilish thoughts, and continued watching the play. With the enemy at hand, George chose to temporarily forget what he had said against Spider-Woman, and prepared to work together to contain the Lizardmen until the arrival of heavy fire support. Just watch it, leave this guy to me to deal with. Gwen was succinct, and after leaving a word, he rushed up with Cobweb. Parents are always the ones who are most familiar with their children. Even with a voice changer, Gwen is afraid that George will find out something after a long time. After the lizard man saw Gwen's movements, his small eyes showed fierceness again. The two sides fought together, shocking the people around them. Both are non-human existences, both in strength and speed are like monsters. Sun Wuming was also carefully observing Gwen's fighting style. Compared to the lizard man, Gwen's strength is undoubtedly weaker, but she is petite and agile, and she is assisted by Cobweb. Instead, they fought back and forth. But perhaps because of the newspaper's criticism of her wanton destruction of other people's property, Gwen was a little restrained, looking tired of defense. The countless vehicles around have become the lizardman's best weapon. Throw them at Gwen one by one. Hey, Mr. Lizard, fight, fight, don't damage other people's property, do you know how hard it is to pay off a car loan? Gwen warned with some embarrassment, and constantly picked up the vehicle and gently put it on the ground. What responded to him was the lizardman's roar that almost lost his mind. Spider-Woman, don't be afraid. We bought insurance. Smash my car, then I can get a new one. Hiding behind the police, a car owner yelled vigorously, and Gwen was taken aback when he heard it. Yes, isn't this insurance? Just let those insurance companies pay out. Immediately, he lost his scruples, swung his delicate fist, and directly knocked the car thrown by the lizardman into the air. Then a beautiful whip kick hit the lizardman's face, kicking out 2 teeth directly. She is weaker than the lizardman, but Gwen's current strength has already exceeded 10 tons, with about 15 tons. And still hit hard. After being hit on the face with 15 tons of force, only 2 teeth fell out. Lizardmen's skin is really thick. However, Gwen also made a mistake, that is, hitting someone is not a slap in the face, let alone a kick. The lizardman's anger became more vigorous, he roared and swung his tail, his strong and powerful claws scratched wildly, and when he was caught in the car, he directly split a big hole. Gwen dodges lightly, finding the opportunity to get behind the lizard man, grabs his tail, and throws it hard, hitting the pillar of the steel bridge heavily. It's disgusting. I'd rather die if I got bitten by a lizard and it turned out like this. Gwen looked at the slime on the battlesuit with disgust, and muttered softly. She could see that the lizard man was also transformed from a human into this way, and she naturally thought of it to herself. Gwen couldn't help but rejoice that she didn't turn into such a beastly body, otherwise how would she face Wuming and her family? There was the sound of propellers in the sky, and Mr. George breathed a sigh of relief. The backup he had called for was finally arriving. Gwen also kept shooting the cobweb, trying to tie the lizardman firmly to the steel frame. But in the next second, he raised his head inadvertently. Gwen froze. The searchlight of the helicopter turned on, and a black-haired man stood quietly on the top of the steel frame, looking at her playfully. Sayin, see you again, Miss Spider, good evening. Sun Wuming floated down and landed beside Gwen, the distance between the two was very close. It's not nice to see you at all. Gwen gritted her teeth. Seeing this hateful man, she remembered the scene of being teased that day. I'm not the protagonist today, your prey is about to escape. Sun Wuming pursed his lips. Gwen quickly raised his head and turned his gaze, looking in the direction of the lizardman. As soon as she spoke to Sun Wuming, the lizardman broke free from the cobweb's shackles and jumped into Hanoi. It's all your fault. Gwen was almost mad. Why did nothing good happen when I met this guy? If I didn't suddenly see him distracted, this lizard man would definitely not be able to escape. Sun Wuming spread his hands innocently. I had a great time watching the show, but you insisted on saying hello to me, can this be my fault? Women are really unreasonable creatures. Are you in your menstrual period? Gwen shrieked like a kitten, "Shut up. Really got Sun Wuming right, she's really on her period." Sun Wuming raised his hand to signal the avatar, "Okay, since you don't want to chat with me, see you next time." After speaking, he rose into the air under the astonished eyes of the people around him. "You can't escape this time." Gwen also shot the cobweb, using the bridge as a leverage point to catch up. The two disappeared from the scene one after the other. "Boss, what should we do? A police officer is in trouble and doesn't know what to do." Lizard Man fled because of this sudden appearance, and Spider-Man also chased after him. The two wanted criminals both disappeared, leaving only a mess. George took a deep breath and began to order his men. "Clean up the scene, collect the blood that the Lizard Man just spilled, and go to see if the people's mobile phones have the video just now. Copy the picture of the last man in black and search for his information." Yes, the police officers got the order and acted quickly. The ambulance that arrived later also took away the injured people and the police. Mr. George looked at the deep river bottom with mixed feelings in his heart. What is wrong with this world? Why is it suddenly so strange? First Spider-Woman, then this lizard monster. Finally, a flying Superman popped out. Listening to Spider-Woman's tone, what kind of Saiyan is it called? The two seem to know each other and have enmity. Facing such an existence, how should an ordinary person like him maintain the safety of this city? Sighing, Mr. George regained his composure, took out his mobile phone, and called Helen to report that he was safe. At the same time, the news of the appearance of the Saiyan quickly spread to the desks of interested forces. Whoosh, whoosh, the cobweb was launched constantly, and Gwen strenuously wandered among the skyscrapers, stretching her perfect body to the limit. She just wanted to catch up with the figure of flight ahead. But Gwen's speed was always a bit slower, and she knew in her heart that it was the other party's intention to hang on. Glancing at the girl behind him, Sun Wuming, who was afraid that she was tired from wandering around, landed in an alley intimately. This is very similar to the alley where the two met for the first time. The only difference is that there is no trash can here. "May I ask Miss Spider what she wants to do and why she keeps following me?" "I want to fight you again," Gwen said firmly. "Just for this." That's right. After being educated last time, Gwen was not idle, and often watched some fighting technique videos during this time. Coupled with her ingenuity and a body full of ability, her fighting skills will definitely be greatly improved. To catch up with Sun Wuming today is to avenge the shame. Kick each other's ass hard and Geo. Sun Wuming was overjoyed, as if he could already see Gwen's unyielding and stubborn eyes through the mask. "It's okay if I agree, but you have to answer a few questions for me." Biting her lips, Gwen nodded after hesitation for a moment. "You ask, I have the right to refuse if it involves privacy." "Don't worry, it's not a gentleman's job to seek out a lady's secret." Sun Wuming waved his hand and asked the first question. "When you glued the building with cobweb, did you ever think about what to do if the wall skin is pulled off by you?" "What the hell question?" Gwen yelled frantically in her heart. A villain in Sun Wuming's current image has appeared, crazily pricking and pricking with needles. Is this a question people can ask? I have such a cool way of moving, but you worry about that wall. But after agreeing to Sun Wuming, Gwen couldn't avoid it. This question is not about privacy. I can only answer honestly. Occasionally there will be some small problems, but I can sense something wrong through cobweb, so I will change my eyes. That's it. Sun Wuming nodded knowingly. He was afraid that one day Gwen was halfway through swinging, but the wall peeled off and fell straight down. Seems to be thanks to spider telepathy. Then, he continued to ask, "The reason why you are active in New York is because there are so many tall buildings in New York that you can fly. If you change to another town, you can only use running." Gwen took a deep breath, and a picture had already appeared in her mind. On a rural road without skyscrapers, she ran around with long legs to enforce justice. Well, there is no help. Die. The anger gauge immediately exploded, and Gwen didn't answer Sun Wuming's stupid question, and rushed forward. "It's too immoral. You clearly promised me." Sun Wuming shook his head regretfully, reaching out to pat Gwen's flying kick away. "Fortunately, this time it's not like the last time we met. We were at a disadvantage with just one move." Gwen is very aware of her strengths, which are speed and reaction. She moves and changes constantly, and has various types of fighting techniques at her fingertips. Combined with her flexible body, the offensive is picturesque. Sun Wuming also showed some energy. After all, it is not so easy to fight Spider-Gwen with the physical fitness of ordinary people. By posing in the Guixian Luki gesture, the physical ability is suppressed, but it does not mean that Sun Wuming's observation ability is reduced. Under the left and right frames, Gwen's attacks were blocked all the time, and each time, they blocked the weak point of the opponent's strength. The horizontal elbow knocked back Gwen's fist, and Sun Wuming stepped forward, turning his palm into a claw, and directly attacked the door. Seeing someone attacking their eyes, almost everyone who has no fighting experience will panic. Although he has learned a lot of tricks, Gwen is still a rookie at heart, and subconsciously took 2 steps back. This retreat gave up the initiative to attack. Facing a series of attacks from Sun Wuming, Gwen realized just how reckless and disorderly his attack was. Boom! Gwen's body was pressed against the wall, her throat already locked by Sun Wuming. Relying on the difference in strength, she could easily break free, but Gwen didn't do that. Because she knew she had lost again. Miss Spider has made a lot of progress. If she is a little bit stronger, I will be in trouble. A pleasant smile appeared on Sun Wuming's face. There are so few opportunities to bully Gwen like this. No, how can this be bullying? It is obviously helping the girl improve her fighting skills. Sun Wuming moved away the right hand that locked his throat, and slowly backed away, but he didn't turn around, so as not to be attacked by this girl. However, Gwen sensed something was wrong. This person was very strong, and he had many chances to strike hard, but they all went to the limit, even just to scare her, without any physical contact. It's like a dedicated fighting instructor. Do the two know each other? Looking up suspiciously, Gwen saw an extremely familiar gaze from the unfamiliar face. Could it be? An incredible idea popped up in Gwen's mind, and he muttered to himself. Wuming. The body that was about to leave suddenly froze. Sun Wuming heard her whisper, and instantly realized that he might have been exposed. That's right, how can an enemy give in so much? I have to run quickly. But his changes naturally couldn't escape Gwen's induction. She became more certain of her thoughts. Wuming, is it you? What Wuming? Miss Spider, did you recognize the wrong person? Could it be your friend? Sun Wuming pretended to be a threat. Say your real name. Isn't Miss Spider afraid of revealing her true identity? Gwen smiled, and under Sun Wuming's astonished gaze, she took off her headgear, stretched out her battle suit, and took out her phone from a towering place. In front of Sun Wuming, a phone call was broadcast. There was no connection for a long time. Sun Wuming, you can't sleep at this time. As long as you have your phone by your side, you will never dare not answer my call. The only explanation is that you left your phone at home. Do you still want to pretend? Do you want us to go home together and have a look? This time, it was Gwen's turn to sneer. 10 minutes later, Sun Wuming came home. The living room was brightly lit, and Sun Wuming's 1.86-meter tall man was shivering in a corner. And Gwen, just like the big devil, moved a single sofa with a sneer and started the trial. Okay, Sun Wuming, I didn't expect you to hide a big one. Gwen, listen to me. Sun Wuming squeezed out a smile. Please call me classmate Stacy. Gwen sat on the single sofa, her tight battle suit perfectly outlining her graceful curves. 2 slender long legs overlapped, short blonde hair hanging down, and at the age of 17, she had the demeanor of a royal sister. Watching Sun Wuming really wanted to give a leather whip, so that it would look more harmonious. Before you explain, student Sun Wuming, let's settle the score first. How dare you hit me, don't you, and humiliate me with one hand? Gwen bared her small canine teeth, with a vicious expression. I'd like to hear your explanation. Sun Wuming immediately looked away, and ran behind Gwen like a dog's leg to relax her muscles and activate her blood, but Gwen was not rejected. Fighted a lizard man, chased Sun Wuming for a long distance and fought again. Although Gwen is not very tired, it is always comfortable to press. While enjoying the massage, Gwen listened to Sun Wuming's sophistry. Last time, I also saw that your fighting skills were too poor, and I wanted to make you suffer a little setback. That night was purely accidental. I didn't expect to appear in front of you, but the phone rang suddenly. Sun Wuming was very sincere, and Gwen reluctantly forgave him. Her fighting skills are indeed too poor, and she is fighting entirely by virtue of her ability. But, Gwen raised her eyebrows, so you knew my identity the first time. When did you find out? Thinking back to when I asked Sun Wuming about his impression of Spider-Woman, he said a lot of bad things. Could it be that you are deliberately angry with yourself? This bad guy. Gwen glared at Sun Wuming, viciously, but without any lethality. The day you had a fever. Sun Wuming confessed frankly while controlling his hands not to draw down. At that time, I already sensed that the chi on your body had changed. Angry. Gwen became curious. Don't press it, tell me what chi is. Gwen blushed and slapped away the big hands that had slid to the edge of the collarbone. Why are you so dishonest today? This cannot be blamed on Sun Wuming, mainly because her battlesuit is too attractive. Usually, Gwen's charm value is 100, so after wearing a battlesuit, the charm value will directly explode. Qi is the most fundamental energy in living organisms, from tigers and lions to small ants and insects, each creature has its own unique qi. And the school I practice is Guixian style. Perceiving other people's qi is just an additional ability. Others have methods like breath shielding. As he said that, Sun Wuming let out a little breath, and Gwen's spider telepathy immediately detected the crisis, and his body tensed up. Okay, Wuming Wu, it turned out that you were the one who teased me last time. Gwen immediately thought of the scene when she went shopping with Sun Wuming and came home that day. At that time, Wuming teased her that she should shave her hair. That's too bad. Sun Wuming smiled awkwardly. He just wanted to be a demonstration, but Gwen turned over his old account again, so he had to change the subject quickly. The chi in your body is already very strong now, but you can't feel it, and you can't apply it. Moreover, your physical fitness is still in the stage of rapid growth. I will teach you how to use it when it is fully developed. That way it will get twice the result with half the effort. Then can I fly like you? Gwen was really interested. Definitely, you can even do that. Sun Wuming's fingers lit up, and a small wave of qigong shot out, blasting the cups on the coffee table into powder. Gwen's eyes lit up. That's so cool. Sun Wuming remembered that Spider-Man's limit strength should be around 25 tons. It is not known whether Gwen can reach this level. But as long as it exceeds 20 tons, it will enter the later stage of growth, and then the practice of Gwen Qi can be taught. Next, Gwen asked Sun Wuming many more questions. He said everything he could say. You've passed the test, but you will never let it go if you have kept it from me for so long. Didn't you keep it from me when you became Spider-Woman? Sun Wuming beeped softly. Dare to talk back. Gwen put her hands on her hips and snorted. I just haven't figured out how to tell you. I didn't expect you to surprise me first. Can the two be the same? Sun Wuming nodded again and again, indicating that you were right. Just in the heart. Forget it. Let this girl be arrogant for a while, and let her experience it when she turns 18. What a real talk back. Gwen, how on earth did you find me? Seeing that Gwen calmed down, Sun Wuming also asked the question that had puzzled him all night. Hee. The girl sneered contemptuously. Although I haven't seen your clothes, I wash your underwear. Few people use that brand of laundry detergent. Coupled with the last movement of you touching my head, that look can't fool me. Some like to run out of the eyes even if they cover their mouths and change their appearance. Sun Wuming was silent. He finally realized that the person who understands him best in this world is not himself, but the girl in front of him. Looking at the time, Gwen was afraid that the fact that she had sneaked out would be exposed, so she was about to slip away. Sun Wuming asked sensibly, shall I see you off? Gwen's eyes lit up. She hugged Sun Wuming's arm, and asked affectionately. Fly me home. I haven't tried flight yet. Although relying on cobweb, Gwen can achieve a state similar to flight, but it is completely different from flying freely. Naturally, Sun Wuming would not refuse her request. When Gwen put on the headgear again, Sun Wuming put one arm around the girl's slender legs, and the other around her neck. Putting his head on Sun Wuming's chest, he could feel the strong heartbeat of the other party. Gwen smiled. After carrying Gwen around New York City, Sun Wuming flew to Gwen's bedroom window. Looking at the young man's handsome face, Gwen suddenly felt an impulse. Climbing into the bedroom along the window, she beckoned. Sun Wuming stepped forward suspiciously. What's wrong? Without speaking, Gwen wrapped her arms around his neck, her soft cherry lips tightened. Well, after a brief moment of stupefaction, Sun Wuming also responded enthusiastically. Gwen at the moment is extremely excited, or jumping for joy. In the past, she was also worried that if the identity of Spider-Woman was revealed, it would bring trouble to her family and Wuming, and even be regarded as a monster. She even thought about hiding this secret for a lifetime, making Spider-Woman and Gwen Stacy two separate existences. In this way, there will be no hidden dangers. But tonight's Wuming really brought her a big surprise. It turns out that I'm not the only one who is special. The same to you. This strange tacit understanding made her extremely excited, so she boldly offered her first kiss. No, not yet. With reddened earlobes, Gwen pushed away Sun Wuming's mischievous hands. Mom said, girls should know how to protect themselves. Student Sun Wuming, you haven't passed my test yet. After calming down her heartbeat, the girl pushed away the resentful Sun Wuming and closed the window. Finally, he winked playfully. Seeing Sun Wuming, who had no meat tonight, he waved helplessly, mouthed good night, and flew away from Gwen's bedroom. Gwen breathed a sigh of relief until Sun Wuming was out of sight. Then he smiled and tiptoed into the bathroom. Dad, Mom, am I going to school? In the early morning of the next day, Gwen said hello and left the house with breakfast made for Sun Wuming. Honey, do you think your daughter is very happy today? George said with some uncertainty. Definitely found out. The corners of my mouth have not been put down all morning. Helen rolled her eyes, thinking she was blind. Can't see such an obvious change. It should be related to Wuming's child, so don't worry about it. Isn't it a good thing that Gwen is happy? What other reason could a teenage girl be so happy about? Could it be because of you, old man? Mr. George choked. He wanted to discuss Gwen's safety with Helen, but Helen interrupted him and changed the topic to work. You came back so late yesterday. Did you find the lizard monster? No, not at all. George sighed. Dealing with the scene of the accident, treating the wounded, and being harassed by various media, these things have made him extremely busy, and the manpower sent to search for the lizard monster is pitifully small. At least so far, no lizard monsters have been found along the Hudson River. But George was sure the guy couldn't have drowned in the water. During the short fight, he could see that the lizard monster was intelligent, but seemed to be suppressed by bloodthirsty instinct. Such an opponent is the most difficult to deal with. And Helen was very dissatisfied with this result. With such a monster in the city, I am a little worried about Gwen's safety. The newspapers are saying that the police are holding back Spider-Woman. George, stop targeting Spider-Woman, she is the hero of the city. Helen is a housewife and rarely goes out every day. But Gwen has to go to school every day and sometimes participates in activities. With such a terrifying monster wandering around the city, it must be a lie to say that you are not worried. Nonsense. If it wasn't for the Saiyan, who suddenly appeared and scared the lizard monster away, it would have been shot dead by the police long ago. George drank the rest of the milk angrily. As for Spider-Woman, I'm not targeting her, I just hate any free people who break social order. After speaking, he changed into his police uniform and went to work. Desperate to save face, Helen muttered softly, and took out today's latest newspaper. On the cover, there are 3 photos of lizard monster, Spider-Woman, and Saiyan. Big headlines are clearly visible. A gathering of freaks. Chapter 31. NYU Langone Hospital, New York. This is the top 3 top private hospitals in the United States, and the place where countless wealthy and dignitaries prolong their lives. In a high-level ward, the events of last night on the Brooklyn Bridge are being shown on television. On the screen, the lizard monster suffered from a hail of bullets, but all wounds healed in a short time. Norman Osborn's face was pale. He was lying on the hospital bed, his eyes turning back and forth between Spider-Woman and Lizard. Boss, it has been confirmed that the lizard monster is Connor's, but there is still no clue about Spider-Woman's identity. The assistant Fairman, who used to be arrogant in front of Connors, is now reporting respectfully. The Osborn family has inherited an extremely rare delayed dominant genetic disorder for generations. There are no symptoms in the early life, but after a certain age, it will attack and eventually take his life. Norman Osborn is now in the late stages of life, having been ill for 2.5 years. All relying on Osborn Industries' strong funds and various medical support to survive. Connors, Spider-Woman. A flash of longing flashed in Norman's eyes, and he carried out countless biological experiments. This is the closest he has come to success. Not long ago, all the mutated spiders cultivated by Osborne Industry died strangely, and soon, Spider-Woman appeared in the public eye. Norman knew that this was the power of the mutant spider, and someone had stolen his property. Intensify efforts, we must find Spider-Woman and obtain her blood. What about Dr. Connors? Feldman asked cautiously, observing the boss's face. Don't worry about him, you already have all the experimental data, make new serums, and find someone to conduct human experiments. Norman whispered, as if this took most of his strength, there are so many disabled veterans, just find a reason to get vaccinated. This is why foreigners refused to be vaccinated in the first place, because some people would use them for human experiments. In this regard, Fairman has no opinion. It's just a human experiment. Osborne has done too much work on this kind of trivial matter. Lao Mi has such a large population, and every day people from all over the world try to smuggle in, dozens of people disappear without anyone noticing, it couldn't be easier. He is Norman's assistant, so he naturally hopes that the boss will live a long life, so that he can guarantee his current status. Fairman left, and calm returned to the ward. Norman watched the news reports over and over again. He ran out of time, and even if the new serum had side effects, he would inject himself before the deadline. Compared with life, what is becoming a monster? Even if I fall into the abyss, I still want to live. Norman's face was indifferent, and the words he said made people shudder. God wants to take my life and Harry's life, then I will turn the world into hell. The underground of New York City has one of the most complex sewer systems in the world. The lizard monster who escaped from the Brooklyn Bridge last night, at the moment, is hiding in a corner of the sewer. Now he has faded away from the image of a ferocious and terrifying monster, and has returned to the appearance of Dr. Connors, with a complex expression on his face. He didn't lose the memory of that time. The bloody desire to kill is vivid in his mind. If it wasn't for the sudden appearance of Spider-Woman, it is unknown how many people would have died in his hands. Dr. Connors was in great pain. He never thought that he would inject the serum into his body in order to prevent Osborne Industry from conducting human trials. It turned out to be a bigger disaster. Did he really do something wrong? In order to make up for his mistakes and completely eliminate hidden dangers, Connors felt that he had to do something. Even if his lost arm disappears again, he can't make the lizard monster reappear in front of the world. Parker, Peter Parker. Dr. Connors murmured softly. Parker was his assistant. He participated in the whole process of making the lizard serum, and he was also a genius in genetics. He has been expelled from Osborne Industries and has no qualifications to enter the laboratory, but Peter Parker is still an intern of the company and can come and go freely. With Parker's help, he'll be able to make an anti-serum potion. Thinking of this, the doctor struggled to get up, and was about to go to Parker. But within a few steps, his face became painful and hideous. The body also changed accordingly, and in just 30 seconds, it returned to the terrifying appearance of the lizard monster. After a while, a low growl spread through the sewer pipes. Peter Parker, Director, have you found anyone? At the headquarters of the Homeland Strategic Defense Offensive and Logistics Agency, Fury sat behind his desk, waiting for Phil Coulson's report. Not really. Phil Coulson, the head of Novice Village, shook his head regretfully. I got some information from the high table, and I can be sure that the identity of the Saiyan is forged. There is no clue as to his real identity. Fury's face didn't change, and Phil Coulson couldn't tell if it definitely changed, so he didn't expect Phil Coulson to achieve anything overnight. Tell me what you find out now. Phil Coulson nodded. Character number 09021, once used the name, Dao Bye-Bye, and Saiyan. His real identity is unknown, his age is unknown, and his strength is unknown. Fury frowned. Code, a bunch of unknown you say fart. Phil Coulson ignored his boss and continued to report. The first time the target appeared was 6 years ago. He obtained gold coins by killing a killer and successfully registered at the Continental Hotel. In the past 6 years, he has completed about 80 missions, with a 100% success rate, and more than 200 deaths. He even died in his hands. After his fame spread, he was called the King of Killers in New York. Phil Coulson slowly described the information he had investigated. Backed by the Security Council, the resources that S.H.I.E.L.D. can use are unimaginable. Even the High Table cannot avoid being infiltrated. Sometimes, when S.H.I.E.L.D. is not convenient to come forward, they will entrust the Continental Hotel to issue a reward. Just like Sun Wuming, several of the missions he performed were issued by S.H.I.E.L.D. Indirect part-time job belongs to Yes. And as Phil Coulson returns, Nick Fury's heart sinks. He is powerful, treats human life like nothing, and accepts jobs as soon as he is paid. This kind of person does not look like a superhero, but as a threat to society. But after thinking about it, the other party may be doing it for money, and besides the killer mission, S.H.I.E.L.D. has not obtained any news about the other party's murder. Maybe it's another existence similar to Natasha Romanoff that can be recruited. After rounding up his logic, Nick Fury felt much better. He raised his single eye and said to Phil Coulson, who was waiting for instructions, "Let's put the Saiyan matter aside for the time being. As long as the other party has contact with the Continental Hotel, it's fine. Now there are more important things that need you." Phil Coulson shrugged slightly, rolling his eyes inwardly. This is the beginning of KFC again. Every time he wants to assign himself to perform difficult tasks, this boss will always say things seriously. However, considering his own salary and pension, Phil Coulson is still very cooperative and said, "Good director, but may I know what the mission is?" Tony Stark was attacked by a terrorist organization at a weapons exhibition in the Middle East and is now missing. "What?" Phil Coulson exclaimed. "This is Stark, the most talented businessman and the most profitable scientific genius in the United States. More importantly, the other party is inextricably linked with S.H.I.E.L.D. Tony's father, Howard Stark, is the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. This matter is not that simple. I have sent people to the Middle East to find it. You are responsible for investigating the interior of Stark Industry. You suspect it was done by your own people." That's right. As the king of agents, Nick Fury does not believe in all coincidences. Why Stark's itinerary and surrounding soldiers did not discover the terrorist organization's raid? There must be someone who got in the way. I see. Phil Coulson stroked his hairline, which had receded another 2 millimeters, and sighed. I have to work overtime again. In Midtown High School, Sun Wuming didn't care about the changes in the unexpected world, propped his head and looked out the window in a daze. Half a semester has passed in the blink of an eye, and the midterm exam will be in 2 days. The teacher on the stage spit and splashed stars, looking at the blackboard for a while, and pointing at the books for a while. This is a history teacher. Sun Wuming doesn't understand. As far as the United States exists, there is no dynasty in the Dragon Kingdom, and there is a history of Der. Moreover, the period when Lao He was a slave had to be cut off, so the time became even shorter. One Roosevelt, one Lincoln, from elementary school to high school, it made his ears callous. Gwen turned her head quietly, looked at Sun Wuming's bored look, wrote a line on the note, and threw the ball of paper at a speed that her classmates couldn't find out. Sun Wuming took it and opened it to see what was written on it. Teach me how to fight tonight. Gwen is very yearning for the magic of Qi, but she can't practice it yet. Then start with the fighting technique. In front of Sun Wuming, her little skill can't stand on the table at all. Looking up, meeting those beautiful big blue eyes, Sun Wuming nodded, wrote a line and threw the note back. No problem, but you need to wear a spider battlesuit. Gwen's pretty face flushed. Gwen can be regarded as understanding of Sun Wuming's wolf ambition. When the two were still hiding from each other, he said that he liked Spider-Gwen's figure. Now it's a showdown, you won't even act, right? Although a little ashamed, Gwen still did not refuse Sun Wuming's request. The get-out-of-class bell rang. Finally, after emphasizing the scope of the exam, the teacher left. It is impossible to procrastinate the class, and they are all paid with dead wages. This is the last class of the afternoon, and the students are also packing their school bags and going home. Gwen and Sun Wuming did not go together. She also had a band rehearsal with MJ and Betty Brant. A month after the midterms is the school's anniversary celebration, and Gwen's band will be on stage. In fact, Sun Wuming admired Gwen for being so busy every day and being able to arrange it in an orderly manner. In addition to taking care of him, I also have to study, band, Osborne Industrial Internship, and finally go to the streets to fight for justice. What a master of time management, etc. Sun Wuming was taken aback suddenly. No, is he being time managed by Gwen? Oh, woman. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Gwen put a telephone that was connected in the house, and whenever Helen or George knocked on the door, she could hear it immediately. Only then did he get out of the window in peace. The cobweb swayed. Gwen shuttled between the skyscrapers, and soon came to Sun Wuming's home. Next time you can come in through the main entrance. No, Gwen will walk through the front door, but Spider-Woman won't. Gwen, who turned over and came in through the window, took off his hood and smiled. Then now, Sun Wuming got up from the chair, left the computer, and embraced Gwen in his arms. Their eyes met and their noses touched. Standing in front of me, is it my childhood sweetheart Gwen, or the good neighbor Spider-Woman of New Yorkers? Neither. Gwen put her arms around Sun Wuming's neck, her hot breath hitting his face. Standing in front of you is your girlfriend, Spider-Gwen. After speaking, the lips of the two were printed together. Putting on a battle suit, Gwen is much more bold and unrestrained than usual, and is very enthusiastic and proactive. Sun Wuming said he likes this kind of change similar to dual personality. Who doesn't want to use one girlfriend as two? After a long time, their lips parted, and both of them were breathing heavily. No one really confesses, but companionship is the longest confession. Both Sun Wuming and Gwen knew it. After being gentle for a while, Gwen didn't forget the business. She came here today to learn fighting skills, and she couldn't indulge in tenderness. Don't worry, we still have one important thing to do. However, Sun Wuming did not rush to take Gwen to practice, but pushed her to the computer. On the screen is a shopping website selling various materials. Your uniform should be changed. Although the fabric is good, it has no defensive power at all. It's the best I can buy, Gwen muttered. This battle suit was purchased by Gwen herself and made with the help of some technologies from Osborne Industry. Its defense is almost zero, but the comfort and elasticity are the best, which can ensure that she will not collapse in any action. Alkali-free fiberglass mesh, this website actually has it. Isn't this a special supply for the military? And this, carbon fiber of this strength. Incredible. Gwen, who didn't care much at first, couldn't move his eyes away instantly after seeing several materials. Choose whatever you want, and treat it as my birthday present to you. Sun Wuming smiled. This website is the internal website of the Continental Hotel. It not only sells various materials, but also sells guns and ammunition, even missiles. I still have several birthdays. Gwen rolled her eyes, propped her chin with her left hand, and asked with some anxiety. Is it really okay to buy these things? Many of them are controlled materials. Gwen, this is the United States, even the position of the president is priced. Sun Wuming patted her on the shoulder, not paying attention. Gwen was dumbfounded. She couldn't refute this. Under the urging of Sun Wuming, she still bought a lot of materials. The battle suit and web shooters made with these materials must be much better than the current ones. It should be there tomorrow afternoon. You can use your basement as a laboratory. Sun Wuming paid and said to Gwen. Many of the training equipment in the basement are no longer useful to him, so it is better to take them out and build a secret nest for Gwen. Thank you, honey. Gwen kissed again, and it felt so easy. The secret after sharing is not a secret, but many things are hidden in the bottom of my heart, and it is very painful not being able to confide in others. With Sun Wuming's presence, Gwen can talk freely with him. Where are we going to train? Gwen got up and asked curiously. Sun Wuming thought for a while. The place at home is not big enough, why don't we go outside? Outside. Gwen's eyes lit up. How about the roof of the Empire State Building? It's a big place, and no one will disturb it. I often go there to rest recently. No problem. Sun Wuming picked up Gwen, and just told the girl to let her go through the main door next time, and now he flew out of the window directly. The Empire State Building, located on 5th Avenue in Manhattan, was built in the 1930s and officially completed in 1931. This nearly century-old building is as high as 443.7 meters. It was once hailed as a miracle in the history of world architecture, and countless tourists come to visit it every day. But at night, the roof here is extremely quiet. Sun Wuming and Gwen stood on the edge, overlooking downtown Manhattan, admiring the neon night scene. As the current World Financial Center, there are countless skyscrapers in Manhattan. If there are no accidents, this place will be reduced to ruins in a few years. The Chidori Demolition Brigade faithfully fulfilled their responsibilities, causing countless insurance companies to go bankrupt. At that time, do you want to acquire several real estate companies for large-scale development? Surely you can make a profit. Wu Ming, let's start. Gwen tilted his head, not knowing what he thought of, showing such a strange smile. Ahem, come on, let me first introduce you to the Guixian style I practice. Sun Wuming calmed down, his expression became serious, and Gwen listened carefully. Sun Wuming, who has all of Kakarot's training memories, strictly speaking, he is not just practicing Guixian Lu. Among them are the shadows of the gods and Bobo, the experience of the cat fairy, and the guidance of the king of the world and the saboteur. In the end, Kakarot actually gathered the strengths of hundreds of schools and created his own school of martial arts. But his foundation has always been the Guixian style, and the Kamepai Qigong is also the most commonly used move. Guixian Liu was founded by a martial arts master, and his name is Guixianren. The most important thing of Guixian Liu is the polishing of the body and the various applications of qi. Definitely, there are also many martial arts moves, but these are auxiliary. The strength of the body and qi is the essence, you must remember. Gwen nodded vigorously. I understand, but my body is already very strong now. Sun Wuming smiled and poked the girl's head with his finger, criticizing, you're so good at it, Guixianren was able to blow up the moon back then, can you do it now? Is it fake? Gwen opened her mouth wide in surprise. The force needed to blow up the moon is countless times greater than tens of thousands of little boys and fat men. Don't you believe it? Let me demonstrate it to you. As he spoke, Sun Wuming put his hands on his waist, and the blue light appeared again, ready to launch if there was a disagreement. Stop, stop, stop. I believe it. Wu Ming, don't be impulsive. Gwen was terrified and screamed, the energy was too terrifying, spider telepathy was giving her a crazy warning, and her body almost escaped from Sun Wuming. It's more or less. Sun Wuming dissipated the qi gathered in his hands, folded his hands on his chest, and said with a half-smile, let's see if you still dare to question the teacher casually. In fact, he was just trying to scare Gwen. There is a special reason why Guixian can bomb the moon. The moon in the Dragon Ball world is different from that in the Marvel world, it is made by the gods themselves. After being blown up by the Guixianren, it didn't take long for the gods to make another one and hang it in the sky. The quality is almost understandable. Gwen was pitiful. I was wrong, Teacher Wuming, is that Guixian your master? Why have I never seen it before? For half, he's not in this world. Sun Wuming shook his head. Gwen thought that Guixianren was dead, so she hugged Sun Wuming distressedly and comforted him. It's okay, I will always be with you. Sun Wuming. Did she misunderstand something? After introducing some Guixian Liu moves, Sun Wuming said seriously. You must firmly remember the purpose of Guixian Liu. Exercise well, study hard, play well, eat well, and rest well. Living happily every day is also part of spiritual practice. Gwen was stunned. She didn't expect that such a powerful martial arts school, the school's purpose would be such a sentence. Although Guixianren is lustful, he is a true martial artist. You will understand this sentence in the future. Seeing the blankness in the girl's eyes, Sun Wuming didn't explain too much. These words, when he was watching Dragon Ball, he didn't have any particularly deep feelings, but after experiencing some things, he was a little older. Only then did Sun Wuming discover that among Dragon Ball, the person with the highest realm may be this cynical old man. Sun Wukong and others can be called martial artists, but they are definitely not a martial arts master. The two started practical teaching. For the application of Cobweb, I believe you are more experienced than me, so I will talk about some moves in close combat. What I'm going to teach you today is a set of guessing punches. Puzzle, is that the one I thought of? It's the simplest box guessing game. I'll demonstrate it to you, and you'll understand. Sun Wuming waved, come on Gwen, attack me with all your strength. Guessing boxing sounds too childish, but Gwen believes that Sun Wuming is definitely not kidding himself. He rushed forward with all his strength. With the scene just now, Gwen didn't believe that he could hurt Wuming now, and he didn't have any scruples about making a move. The speed was so fast that a gust of wind blew up on the roof, and Gwen crossed a distance of more than 10 meters almost in the blink of an eye. Sun Wuming closed his palms in front of him, and Gwen's fists almost hit his face before reaching out. Cloth, fist, cloth. Gwen quickly discovered the problem. When Wuming released the cloth, he could completely neutralize the force of his attack. When she punched, the fist became very hard, and she felt a little painful when she was knocked down. And the scissors are the most insidious, not using the eyes, or various private parts, hitting Gwen blushing. The simple changes of the 3 moves are more practical than the many fighting techniques she has learned by herself. Cloth. Sun Wuming yelled again, and Gwen immediately crossed his arms, because Boo's attacks were all horizontal blows. But, hey, you don't talk about martial arts. You obviously called cloth, but why did you say fists? Gwen was hit on the head, and Gwen squatted on the ground wrong. Stop fighting, Wuming bullies others. Isn't it normal to yell at Bu to throw his fist? Do you still want to learn? Sun Wuming gave you a fussy expression, and Gwen was so angry that he wanted to bite someone. Study. When she learns it, use this trick to beat Wuming's ass hard. Guessing boxing is actually very simple, and it is not even a real boxing method. But the ideas and essence contained in it are very precious. Not sticking to shape, unconstrained style, 3 moves, creating countless possibilities. Sun Wuming chose to teach this boxing method to Gwen because she wanted to broaden her horizons in thinking, and fight less rigidly. As a schoolmaster girl, coupled with the agility of being a Spider-Man, Gwen quickly grasped a trace of the essence. Okay, let's stop here today, it's getting late. Sun Wuming looked at his watch, it was almost 12 o'clock, so he said to Gwen. Continue tomorrow. I think I'll overtake you soon. Gwen said confidently, and Sun Wuming nodded in agreement. In 100 million years, you will be able to beat me. I'll just go home by myself. If you can't fall asleep, you can study a little longer. The exam will be the day after tomorrow. Gwen warned, brought the face up, swung the cobweb and was about to leave. Sun Wuming stopped her. Wait, I'm so serious about teaching today, so there is no reward. Like a real spider hanging in the air, Gwen gave him a blank look and slowly slid down. The body hangs upside down, reaching the same height as Su Wuming, and half of the mask is lifted, revealing a delicate chin and rosy lips. Okay then, Mr. Sun, this is student Gwen's tuition fee today. Naturally, Sun Wuming would not be polite, and after a few minutes of tasting, he let the girl leave with satisfaction. Back home, Sun Wuming received a message from Winston. The materials that Gwen ordered just now have been prepared, and the money has been refunded. Winston definitely knew that Sun Wuming didn't think much of such a small amount of money, but this was his attitude. The Continental Hotel is all yours, so how do you spend money when you bring things at home? Sometimes, it is a very comfortable experience to have someone who is sensible and able to do things under his command. It is no wonder that many rich people trust their housekeepers even more than their wives. So considerate. After replying that he would go to the Continental Hotel by himself tomorrow, Sun Wuming ignored it. Start thinking about Gwen's training plan. Judging from the current world, Gwen's strength is more than enough to deal with most disasters. But the big dog has disappeared, and the news has not been revealed, and it is estimated that it will not be hidden for too long. In any Marvel timeline, the birth of Iron Man is undoubtedly a big event, a stone thrown in a peaceful universe, causing ripples. Next, there will be more and more capable people and strangers in New York, and the aliens will form groups, and the risk factor will rise sharply. With Gwen's warm heart, if those troublesome things don't come to her door, she will join in the fun herself. The current strength is not enough. Just grab the infinite gems and let the big dog make an infinite armor for Gwen. Sun Wuming had a whim, and now there are space gems and time gems on the Earth. He can't touch time gem, and it's fine if Ancient One doesn't come to him, but he won't come to him by himself. That leaves only the space gem. Washington. Nick Fury, who was working overtime, sneezed suddenly, and several pages of documents on the desk were blown away. Who turned the air conditioner down so low? Send it out to do field work. Sun Wuming temporarily gave up the idea of grabbing the space gem. The main reason is that he won't take advantage of it if he gets it. This thing is a treasure of the Esir Protoss. After so many years of research by Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D., they barely made some energy weapons. He is a reckless man who only knows how to fight, and he can only be blinded if he gets it in his hand. Let's ask when Thor comes to Earth. After being a prince for so many years, even if he doesn't want to learn, Frigga and Odin must have taught him a lot of useful knowledge. In fact, there is another candidate who is more suitable. That is the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One that has mastered the Time Gem for hundreds of years. But now Sun Wuming is not strong enough, and he is still full of fear of Ancient One. It is fine if the other party does not come to him. Nick Fury just like that, unknowingly got away with it. The next day, Sun Wuming went to the Continental Hotel and brought back all the materials Gwen had bought, along with a lot of equipment. When she came home and saw that all her favorite things had arrived, Gwen cheered and immediately went to work, starting to make a new battle suit. Not only the battle suit, web shooters, but also the quality of cobweb also needs to be upgraded iteratively. Because the material is sufficient, she can make several more pieces at one time. Sun Wuming also enthusiastically provided some suggestions, and Gwen took out the picture that he had prepared a long time ago to see. His face was red and red. Except for 2 pieces that changed color, the rest are all unscrupulous. And Sun Wuming is plausible. Originally, these clothes were passed on to me, and you were not allowed to wear them out. Don't mess with me. Gwen became annoyed and pushed him out of the basement. On Wednesday, Midtown High will have midterms for the next 2 days. As a well-known private high school in Queens, students who can enter here must either come from an outstanding family background, or have excellent academic performance, and have specialties in certain subjects before they can be recruited. Don't think that the United States is all happy education. The real elite is still rolling from generation to generation. The happy education in those public schools and the free growth of speech are just a means to solidify the class. In the classroom, there was a rustling sound. It was the students writing hard. Sun Wuming was also lying on the table and writing quickly. I didn't even look at the question, just looked at the question number and filled in the answer. When the passing score is enough, I immediately stop writing and sleep on the table. He got the answer from the principal's office when he came to school in the morning, and he didn't worry about making mistakes. After laying on the ground for a while, Sun Wuming suddenly raised his head and glanced at Gwen, who had finished and was checking. Sensing the gaze behind her, Gwen turned her head. Sun Wuming smiled and mouthed a few words. Spider-Woman, it's your turn. Gwen understood his mouth shape, but her head was full of doubts, not understanding what it meant. At the same time, the first floor of the teaching building. Boom, boom, boom. The dull knocking sound came from the bathroom, and finally, boom. The ground was shattered, bricks and stones splashed. Dr. Lizard crawled out of the sewer, and strode into the teaching area, muttering in his mouth. Peter Parker, Peter Parker. The walls of the corridor collapsed, followed by the screams of teachers and students. Ah, monster, run. A student was shot flying into the wall, making a big hole, and there was no sound in an instant. Others fled belatedly. The commotion soon spread to the 3rd floor, where Sun Wuming and Gwen were in the classroom. When he discovered that the lizard monster that appeared a few days ago had come to his school to wreak havoc, these students panicked completely. It was Gwen who stood up and temporarily stabilized their emotions. Run the other way. Get out of school. I've called the police. Everyone found the backbone and came out of the door in a crowded way, as did the students in other classrooms. Gwen followed and ran out for a certain distance, then turned back and saw Sun Wuming, who was still sitting on the chair. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I just said it. Well, it's my fault. Gwen raised her hands, took off the outer clothes, revealing the spider uniform, and took out the mask from the school bag and put it on her head. You actually wear her all the time. Restricting yourself too much will affect your development. Gwen gave the boy a blank look. Now is not the time to joke. Wuming, although I don't know why the lizard man came back to school, you and I will fight together and arrest him. No. Sun Wuming shook his head under Gwen's astonished gaze. As long as I make a move, the lizard man will never leave the campus alive. Gwen, is this what you want? Gwen was silent. She remembered one thing that she had been reluctant to think of these days. Sun Wuming's shot was too harsh. The last time I cut off the little gangster's hand, this time I wanted the lizard man's life even more. Gwen didn't know that the lizard man was transformed by Dr. Connors, but she knew that the other party was also a human being. There seems to be some disagreement between the two in the way they treat criminals. Okay, leave everything to me. In the end, Gwen still disagreed with Sun Wuming's approach and chose to use her own method to solve the problem. After speaking, he jumped out of the window. Sun Wuming stood quietly at the window and spoke lightly. Forgiveness is Yuan of the strong, Gwen, you are still far behind. Roar! The lizard man wreaked havoc inside the teaching building. With a flick of the tail, the wall collapsed, and the sharp claws passed through the wooden door and pulled the door out. Inside the room, the students hiding here screamed, but the lizard man scanned around and miraculously let them go after not finding the target person. Because through the window, he saw Peter Parker downstairs running towards the outside of the campus. The dark side of Dr. Connors in the lizard man state has been crazily expanded, but he has not lost his wisdom and thinking ability. It's just that the perspective and personality of looking at the world have undergone earth-shaking changes. The doctor under normal circumstances wants to find Peter Parker, so that he can help him eliminate the power of the serum. And now the lizard man wants to find Peter Parker, that is to kill him, so that he will always be in the mode of the lizard man and will never become the weak look before. Not only that, but he also wants to turn all the people in New York and the United States into lizard people. This is a great evolution of human beings. Boom, boom, boom. Dr. Lizard broke through the outer wall of the building and opened a big hole. Using both hands and feet, he rushed towards the crowd fleeing outside the school at an extremely fast speed. Quick! The monster is about to catch up. Quick! Hearing the movement behind, some students turned their heads and saw Dr. Lizard chasing him, his eyes tearing open, and he shouted frantically. The crowd became even more flustered, and ran out with all their strength, even pushing away the classmates who stood in front of them in order to go faster. MJ, seeing his sweetheart fall to the ground, Peter immediately went up to help him, but was staggered by the person behind him, and he fell down too. Peter Parker. The roar of the lizard man was close at hand. Peter was taken aback. This voice is so familiar. Drive Connors. You are Dr. Connors. Peter's eyes widened. In the next second, the lizard man's sharp claws were stabbing towards Peter's heart. Hey, you said he was Connors. The Connors from Osborne Industries. Gwen finally caught up, rushed over to touch the palm of the lizard man, and asked in surprise. No, that's right, he is Dr. Connors, he must have injected himself with serum. Peter understood it all at once, his eyes filled with shock. The doctor actually used himself to conduct experiments. Okay. Thank you for the news, this place is taken over by Spider-Woman. Run away. Gwen pushed hard, although she was also shocked by the news, but the top priority is to subdue the lizard man, so that he can't hurt the innocent again. On the way here, Gwen saw that at least 10 classmates died at the hands of the lizard men. The web shooters shot 2 balls of cobweb on the lizard man's eyes, harmless but extremely insulting. This is what Gwen wants to see. The lizard man's attention was all attracted to him, and he rushed forward with a kick of his legs. Gwen quickly dodged, launching the cobweb while moving towards the stadium not far away. It's too open here, and it's not suitable for spiders to play at all. The two chased after each other, and Gwen was shocked to find that the speed of the lizard man was much faster than the last time they fought. He is still evolving. Boom. The distance between the two was shortened, and with a flick of the lizard man's tail, Gwen was pulled out. Whoosh, whoosh, continuously firing the cobweb onto the beams of the house. With the help of the huge force of rushing back, Gwen used himself as a bullet on the slingshot and fired it fiercely. Fist. The power of inertia, coupled with Gwen's original strength, this punch was so powerful that it hit the lizard man's face, making him spin several times, and even lost several teeth. This tooth condition, Dr. Connors, you should usually like to eat sweets, right? Even at this time, Gwen still didn't forget to talk, and completely angered the lizard man. The lizard man was close to 3 meters tall, but his agility was not bad at all, and he was powerful, with weapons all over his body. Teeth, claws, tail, legs. In terms of frontal combat, the current Gwen is not an opponent of the lizardmen at all, and has escaped the attacks of the lizardmen several times in dangerous situations. Fortunately, she has a weapon. The cobweb was played out in Gwen's hands, restrained, pinned down, and moved with strength. A large cobweb appeared in the gymnasium, and it was Gwen lying in the center of the cobweb. Although lizards are natural predators of spiders, I got over that instinct. Gwen said a wisecrack, and the movements of the lizard man stuck on the spider web became sluggish. Taking this opportunity, Gwen moved constantly and completely wrapped the lizard man into a cocoon with the cobweb. Extraordinary wisdom is the most precious wealth of human beings. You clearly understood this truth before, Dr. Connors. Gwen sighed softly, expressing regret for Connors who became like this. You think you've already won. Spider-Woman. The lizard man's roar came from the cocoon, and he tore the cobweb with his sharp claws and broke free. Shit, if my material is upgraded, this situation will definitely not happen. Gwen made a rare swear word, and was forced to start fighting the lizard man again. She just started making a brand new battle suit and cobweb yesterday, and today she is still using the previous civilian version. As long as the lizard man exerts strength, he can easily break free. The battle between the two is extremely unfair. From a scientific point of view, Dr. Connors has indeed evolved more thoroughly. The attack is high and the blood is thick, and the speed is not slow. The structure of mollusks allows him to make various exaggerated movements. The two fought from the gymnasium to the laboratory, classroom, and library. I even met an old man who was sorting books with headphones. Finally, the long period of mental tension and huge amounts of physical exertion caused Gwen to make a mistake. The lizard man's tail suddenly straightened, and it was quickly thrown out like a whip, and it was firmly drawn on Gwen's body. Superior. The girl crashed through the classroom wall and fell to the ground. Ahem. The crisis was not resolved, and the lizard monster rushed over, but the force just now was too great, and Gwen had no ability to resist at all. If I agree to Wu Ming's request, then the one lying here should be the lizard man. At the last moment, Gwen remembered the conversation with Sun Wuming just now. It's not too late now. Sun Wuming's gentle voice rang in his ears, and Gwen opened his eyes suddenly. Wu Ming. The boy she was thinking of really appeared before her eyes, which made her think that she was hallucinating for a while. Standing in front of the lizard man, Sun Wuming, who was 1.86 meters tall, looked like a minor elementary school student. But it was this little human being who held his sharp claws with a single finger. Dong 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 stepped back a few steps, and the lizard man's eyes flashed with surprise. The animal instinct gave him a crazy warning, and the human beings in front of him were extremely dangerous at the moment. The side effects of the gene serum stimulated his nerves, and the bloodthirsty impulse was like a wave without stopping. The two contradictory thoughts made the lizard man freeze in place for a moment. Sun Wuming helped Gwen up, and helped her wipe the dust off her body. Wu Ming. Gwen hugged the boy with some grievances. After all, she was just a 17-year-old girl, and what she needed most after suffering setbacks was a safe embrace. Hey, let's go back and practice hard, and you will become stronger in the future. Gwen nodded in response, fully aware of her lack of ability. Spider-Woman. Saiyan. Die. Perhaps the lizard man was choking on the dog food of the two, or perhaps this ignorance made him very hurt. At this moment, the brutal personality overcame the instinct of the animal, and with a kick of both legs, the lizard man rushed towards the two of them like a cannonball. Sun Wuming's eyes sharpened, and he clenched his right hand tightly. Boom! With one punch, the lizard man flew backwards at a faster speed, crashing countless objects. Sun Wuming's speed was even worse. Gwen's eyes almost blurred, and he realized that he had come in front of the lizard man and punched him constantly. Boom! 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 The ground was trembling slightly, and the dust from the ceiling fell in response. Sun Wuming's powerful punch was enough to seriously injure the lizard man, but the self-healing ability allowed him to recover quickly. But just after recovering, another punch was thrown, and the injury reappeared. Punch after punch, Sun Wuming smiled excitedly, and his fists became heavier and heavier. This is a fine beanbag. During this period of time, is there anyone who can withstand his fist? Maybe Hulk, who doesn't know where to hide, can do it too. The roar was accompanied by a muffled sound. The lizard man wanted to use his tail to control Monkey King, but he didn't even look back. He tore off his tail and threw it aside, and then continued to punch. Gwen finally realized how big the gap between herself and Sun Wuming was. Excluding the Junchi wave that he had seen the night before, the lizard man could be suppressed by physical strength alone. Gradually, the lizard man also felt fear. Although the injury can be recovered, the physical pain is still there, and it keeps adding up, even Beast can't bear it. So he struggled desperately, trying to escape from here. Wu Ming, don't kill him. He is Dr. Connors, Gwen said frightenedly, for fear that Wu Ming would kill him with a punch. Boom. The last punch used a little force, and it hit the lizard man directly on the temple, causing him to faint. Sun Wuming stood up abruptly. Gwen, what are you going to do with him? Gwen bit her lower lip lightly. Let's leave it to the police, we don't have the right to go beyond the law and try. Dr. Connor's nature is not bad, and he became like this, probably due to some mistakes in the mutation process. Gwen thought that handing it over to the police might be able to cure him. Then are you ready? Sun Wuming asked back. What? If one day, Connors escaped again and started to commit crimes again, thus hurting innocent people. Can you afford the price? No, Dad and the others will take good care of the doctor. Gwen immediately shook her head, not believing this possibility at all. Sun Wuming couldn't help but laugh. This typical Spider-Man thinking didn't surprise him at all. Gwen has never seen the darkness of society, and the world she has been in contact with has always been bright. She has no idea that the laws of the United States are like waste paper to some people. He dared to guarantee 100 times that Connors would definitely fall into the hands of those with ulterior motives. But these truths are just spoken, and Gwen will not understand. Sun Wuming has no objection to Gwen becoming a superhero, it is her own choice. But when it comes to dealing with the enemy, you should never be so indecisive and blindly trust others like you are now. For the last time, Gwen, if this happens in the future, I will kill those who want to hurt you without hesitation. Glancing at Connors, who was still in a coma, Sun Wuming punched him again to make him sleep more soundly. Thank you, dear. Seeing that Sun Wuming finally let go, Gwen also heaved a sigh of relief. There was no one around, so she took off her mask with confidence and sent her love. The sound of a police car honking could be heard faintly, and the figures of the two who were sticking together separated. In front of Midtown High School. When the police were called, the lizard man appeared behind the school. The NYPD acted quickly, and George, as the director, led the team himself. He was distraught along the way, constantly calling Gwen's phone, but he didn't get through. George blamed himself immensely. If he could have found the lizard man earlier, today's dangerous situation would not have happened. Come on, George urged. Screeching sirens cut through the streets. Finally, NYPD created the fastest police dispatch speed ever, and a large number of police officers gathered at the school gate. This time, they even carried a lot of heavy firepower, and the policemen rushed in with their guns in full armor. Gwen, where are you? As soon as George arrived, he rushed into the crowd of students looking for his daughter. Dad, here I am. Squeezing through a passage, Gwen took Sun Wuming's hand and came to George. The worries in George's heart finally dissipated, and he couldn't help but blame. Why didn't you answer Dad's call? I was so worried just now. I'm sorry, Dad. Gwen stuck out her tongue playfully. After seeing the lizard monster, Wuming took my hand and ran out. He put his phone in his school bag and didn't take it out. Seeing that his daughter wasn't too frightened, George naturally didn't say anything more. He said a few words of thanks to Sun Wuming, and refocused on catching the lizardmen. How is the situation inside? Are there any casualties, and can you determine the location of the lizard monster? A police chief replied. Several teams have already entered the school. According to the students, the sudden appearance of Spider-Woman attracted the attention of the lizardman. As for the number of casualties, so far, more than 15 people have been confirmed dead. Spider-Woman, why did she come so fast? George frowned and said to himself. At this time, the radio transmitted the situation ahead. We found Lizardman. He's passed out, still trapped in a cobweb by the cobweb. Have you been subdued? George's tone was a bit complicated, and Spider-Woman helped them police again. Put on special handcuffs. Everyone enters the school. Mr. George took the lead, wearing a bulletproof suit, and rushed in with a spray gun, followed by the police behind him. Seeing Gwen's concern, Sun Wuming whispered, Don't worry, that guy will have to faint for at least another 2 hours. The lizard man was taken away, and the New York police locked him up in a special alloy cage. Peter was also taken away by the police, because many people heard Peter's name shouted from the lizard man. Obviously, the lizard man's attack on the school has something to do with Peter. A large number of wounded were sent to nearby hospitals. Even the uninjured students and teachers had heavy faces on their faces. 1/3 of the school's teaching building was destroyed, the interior of the gymnasium was completely destroyed, and several rows of bookshelves in the library were smashed to pieces. Under such circumstances, there is naturally no way to continue the exam. The school gave the students a holiday, and when the school starts, we have to wait for the notice. Gwen also followed Sun Wuming back, and the two of them were a little silent on the way, speechless all the way. What do you want to eat? Back home, Gwen spoke up. Order takeaway. You're very tired today, why don't you go upstairs and take a nap? Touching the girl's hair, Sun Wuming asked softly. No need. Gwen shook her head and said hesitantly, I want to have a chat with you, and have a good chat. Definitely can. Sun Wuming was sitting on the sofa, and Gwen subconsciously sat beside him and leaned over. But after thinking about it, I ran to the opposite side of Sun Wuming to do it again, which seemed more serious. Wuming, have you ever thought about what you want to do? Eating and waiting to die, you will become stronger through cultivation. Sun Wuming replied without any hesitation. But you have this power, so you should do something more meaningful. Gwen bit her lips lightly. Just like today, if you take action, not so many people will die. Are you blaming me, Gwen? Sun Wuming looked into her eyes, and the faint smile disappeared from her face. I don't. Gwen reacted very fiercely, explaining with dancing, I have no right, and I will never ask you to do anything. Honey, I think you can do better. Fearing that Sun Wuming would be angry, Gwen jumped into his arms, their eyes met, and she tried her best to express her sincerity. Relax easy Gwen, I'm not angry. Sun Wuming patted the girl's back comfortingly, and said slowly. If it's not for you today, maybe until the police show up, I won't take action because I don't want to. However, the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. Since you and I have gained power, shouldn't we do something meaningful? Gwen retorted cautiously. This sentence is what she heard when she was Spider-Woman and accidentally rescued an old man from gangsters. She felt that this sentence was very reasonable, and even prepared to use it as her own standard of conduct to restrain herself. Sun Wuming rubbed the girl's hair. For me, the most meaningful thing is to grow old with you forever. As for the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. Why should ability be linked with responsibility? Sun Wuming only believed that the greater the ability, the greater the temper. He controlled his temper well and did not harm ordinary people. This is already the quality that 9 years of compulsory education brought him. All right. Gwen did not continue to persuade. She would not interfere with Sun Wuming's choice, just as Sun Wuming respected her decision. She just realized that she still didn't know enough about the boy in front of her. Soon, the takeaway from Sun Wuming was delivered. After the two of them ate, Gwen went into the basement and began to hurry up to make a new battle suit. If she could use the latest cobweb and battle suit today, the battle with the lizard men might not be so passive. The next day, the news of the lizard men attacking Midtown High School hit the headlines, as expected. All teachers and students in the school were witnesses. More than a dozen students died, and the New York police couldn't hide it even if they wanted to. All the newspapers are criticizing the New York police for their poor handling. Only the Daily Bugle is holding on to Spider-Woman, thinking that the Lizard Man and Spider-Woman must be related, otherwise the Lizard Man will appear twice, and Spider-Woman will not be able to rush to the scene quickly. One of the intriguing things is that the news that the Lizard Man is Dr. Connors has not been exposed. Sun Wuming thinks that Osborne Industries should be behind the scenes. Once this news is known to the public, the stock price will definitely plummet. And another definite thing happened. Dr. Connors was taken away by the military without staying in the police prison for 24 hours. The reason is that the prisoners are too dangerous and must be held in special military prisons. A word of Sun Wuming does not carry a letter. As for the school, the students were given a 2-week vacation, and they took the time to repair the teaching building. Sun Wuming also relaxed. Gwen also has a lot of time to arrange freely, making battle suits during the day, and occasionally going out to be a good neighbor to New Yorkers. In the evening, I followed Sun Wuming to learn Guixian Lu, and my life was very fulfilling. There was a special tacit understanding between the two. Sun Wuming will not interfere with Gwen's actions, and tries his best to teach Guixian Lu every night. Gwen never mentioned making Sun Wuming a superhero again. This afternoon, Gwen came to Sun Wuming's house as usual, and told about the troubles she encountered. I really don't know why Dad insists on holding on to Spider-Woman. Obviously, I was helping him clean up the mess, but the lizard man was caught, and he has been looking for me. The girl's words were full of resentment. With the lizard man threat removed, Mr. George refocused on Spider-Woman's identity. Perhaps it was a great help to the police both times, and George is no longer as hostile to Spider-Woman as before. He wants to have a face-to-face conversation with the other party. If he can, he will give the other party a post of honorary policeman, but only if he is registered at the police station. Naturally, it was impossible for Gwen to agree. His father was so smart, and after a few chats with him, he might guess his identity. And Mr. George has found something. First, most of the time Spider-Woman appears is in the afternoon and evening, and the life pattern is in line with office workers and students. The second is that Spider-Woman appeared so quickly that Spider-Woman didn't rush to the school from other places during the rest of the day, but just appeared out of nowhere. This gives George reason to suspect that Spider-Woman is likely to be a female high school student, and she is a student of Midtown High School. It's not that you are too flamboyant. You show up during the school holidays these days. Mr. George is someone who can be the chief. This ability is still there. Sun Wuming concentrated on giving Gwen a massage. It's too bad to play with this leg for a year, and he has to keep playing. Pressing and pressing, the hand slid to the ankle, and Gwen's face turned red instantly, shaking uneasily. Here is a hot knowledge of popular science. The feet of spiders are the most sensitive, and the sensitivity is hundreds of times that of humans. Gwen had already forcibly suppressed it, so she didn't kick Sun Wuming away. At this time, the TV that was originally playing a good variety show suddenly changed the screen. The following is a piece of news. It has been verified by reliable sources that Tony Stark, a genius scientist and famous playboy, has confirmed that he was attacked by a terrorist organization while displaying arms in the Middle East. Sun Wuming looked up. At present, all the casualties of the U.S. Army have been recovered, but Stark's whereabouts are still unknown. Virginia Pepper Potts, chief assistant of Stark Industry, has issued a reward of $8 million. Gwen's attention was also attracted. After watching the news, she looked at the smiling teenager with a strange expression. Wuming, could it be you who did it? Just after tens of millions of stocks were sold, Stark disappeared not long after. No matter how you look at it, Gwen felt that her man was very suspicious. Why would I kidnap a man? If I want to kidnap, I will also kidnap you and keep you at home. Sun Wuming pinched the girl's little nose. They did it themselves. Otherwise, how could the military's secret operations be known to the outside world? Gwen nodded thoughtfully. As expected of a capitalist, a dog bites a dog as a master. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.